Good morning to you. Good morning to you.
Oh, I thought was that a ad lib?
No. I took that from an episode of Jimmy Neutron way back in the day.
Oh.
Classic show.
We'll have to pick that for the pod sometime. The Jimmy Neutron movie.
Dude, that movie goes hard.
That's
gas.
literally gas.
Yeah. All right. Good morning, gents and lady on the other side of the room. How are we feeling? It's been a while since we've had a morning cast.
Yeah. I love my morning casts. I feel good this morning.
I usually do too, but I'm tired.
Oh, no.
What time did you get up this morning, Dennis?
9:54.
Oh, no gym this morning, eh?
No gym this morning.
gonna say.
I think I need a baseline 10 hours of sleep to perform anything.
That's fair. Excelente, por favor. I have what you call a little prompt for you all today.
Yay.
To spike some conversation. Just curious to see if you had any movie news that you've run into over the last week or two that is particularly notable and or mentionable and or fun.
You shared this with us, but James Cameron has plans for up to like 7 avatars, in which case he said he was ready to maybe hand off the torch after the 7th one.
Yeah.
That's
he was written through how many? 5? Yeah.
5's been written for a while, but I'm
That's
pissed
crazy.
about that. I always wanted it to end at 5, like his main story.
I love artists that believe in their dream, but maybe you don't believe in it that hard.
To have some fucking balls and respect and not just hand it off to somebody. I hate that.
Well, I mean, he's fucking
your
maybe old as
story.
shit.
I know. So just stop at 5.
Yeah, but
Like
it's
George
the
Lucas
biggest,
in his prime never would have been like, "Oh, I'm going to let somebody else do Star Wars." He actually said he was never going to let.
You
got
to think about the fact that he probably doesn't have a fucking say in the matter. Like, it's the biggest movie franchise, highest grossing movie franchise of all time.
Okay, that's fair.
So
if you're gonna have
decision.
to get it off to somebody, then you might as well be in the conversation and give it to somebody that you respect.
yeah,
Bada bing, bada boom.
because what 5 is going to come out in like 2080 probably,
Yeah.
and he'll be 160 years dead. So someone else has got to take the reins. I saw some fun news related to Game of Thrones, a new Game of Thrones spinoff.
The one with Kit Harington?
No, this is Aegon's Conquest, officially in the works at HBO.
That's gonna be sick.
New Game of Thrones spinoff is in the works from writer Mattson Tomlin. Do you know?
No, not off the bat.
From the Batman.
He wrote the Batman?
I guess so. From writer Mattson Tomlin.
TF question mark?
The Batman. The series will follow Targaryen's bloody and brutal conquest of Westeros.
Let's go.
Aegon the First.
Yeah, that's the OG shit.
Yeah, and
True OGs would understand.
I know, and that's like sick because they always reference this over the course of
House of the Dragon.
House of the Dragon and Game
of
of Thrones. And it's just like, seems like some epic fucking shit that happened. And Balerion, the Black Dread, I guess it was it his dragon, Aegon's dragon? I don't fucking know. Anyone who knows the lore, comment, let us know. He was so massive that his wings would completely block out the sun when he passed over a town, according to the books, and he is going to be in the new series.
That's so sick. Yeah, that's literally the prime of Westeros. Like,
Yeah.
this is when all the shit went down.
Yeah.
Is he the Mad King?
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's lit.
I still don't care at all.
Dude,
It's okay.
walk us through your hatred.
Everybody was so up on, okay, first of all, the whole IP of Game of Thrones or Song of Ice and Fire got completely ruined by the 2 showrunners that made the last 2 seasons of Game of Thrones so bad. So anything done from this IP going forward is eternally off limits for me, or off my radar. Don't care. Will not
All
care.
because out of, 8 seasons, 2 were bad. So what's the fraction?
No. 2 were not bad. 2 were embarrassing.
The second to last season was not embarrassing. The only thing embarrassing was the finale.
Let's be
the entire whole
they were
last
bad,
season was bad.
But to be fair, it's not their fault. Like they're basing their scripts off of novels that haven't even been written yet. Because fucking George R.R. Martin won't finish the goddamn books.
Sure, there were so many
what else
better
are they
choices.
gonna do?
This is an actual time where 3 idiots in a room could have written a better script and screenplay.
I don't disagree because I didn't like the last 2 seasons like at all. It was embarrassing. I agree,
Mm-hmm.
but I still love the IP so much. And then luckily they made different showrunners came and wrote the House of the Dragon season 1, which was epic and amazing.
And this is where
season
your
2 's
argument
coming
falls
out.
apart so hard because you're saying because this person made this show, I'm not going to watch another show that
Made
a
by
different
different
person
people.
made.
Yeah, it's in the same universe, and just there's no longer any love. Or I'm probably not going to watch the first 5 seasons of Game of Thrones ever again, even though they were really good, and I know that. I'd probably enjoy it. Just the fact of what comes after is just, it's too bad.
That's not my president. That's not my canon. That's not my story. That's how I view it.
Yeah, well,
I just stop at like 6, and then I'm like, okay,
You're,
cool.
I commend your ability to separate that from what's actually the case.
I think any Game of Thrones fan has to do that. Separate.
I'm proud to say I'm not a Game of Thrones fan anymore.
You'll be missing
You're
out on the
lost.
future.
You're literally you're lost. Anyways, I hate you.
I have movie news.
What's your movie news?
Yeah, we did Alien, the original Alien on the podcast, I don't know how many months ago, but finally a new Alien movie is coming out straight to streaming, unfortunately, on Hulu.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm not happy about it. Some Disney bullshit. But it's called Alien Romulus, directed by Fede Alvarez, who's a great... Doesn't have much in his backlog, but he did make the Evil Dead remake, which I think is a fantastic and underrated horror movie. And I'm very excited about what he can do with the franchise. It's kind of like a reboot-ish type of movie. So very excited for original Alien story that we haven't had in a while. And thank God Ridley Scott's not a part of it. But he did sign off on it, so I guess that counts for something.
Wait, hold on. Back up.
Uh-oh.
How do you say his name? Fede?
I don't know. Fide. How to say Fide?
Oh, okay. The Evil Dead remake before. I thought you were talking about the newest one that you said you hated. Or that was like
I didn't
a big
hate it,
letdown.
but it was a letdown.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a sequel to... Or actually, that was more of a spin-off. But no, yeah, the remake was 2013.
Dude, this guy does not have a great track record. Don't Breathe, which is like that horror movie with that...
Yeah, people
blind
went
guy.
crazy for that. Though.
Blind guy
That
named
was
Squeegee.
critically a success.
Yeah, it's got a 3.3 stars, so... I don't know, how is that how?
I think Rotten Tomatoes is way higher than Letterboxd.
Yeah, but I kind of care about Letterboxd more these days just because it's users versus...
But we didn't when it came out in 2013 or
general audience.
2015, whatever. But I mean, I didn't really care for that much for that movie either.
And then Girl in the Spider's Web.
That's
Which we
based on
talked about
source material.
previously.
I don't care. I just care about, like, if you're making a movie, are you making another Girl and the Dragons, whatever, or Girl and the Spiders, whatever movie, or are you making a horror movie? If you're making an Alien movie, I'm only going to look at your track record for stuff in the same genre. And in that case, I think he's done a good job.
Actually, I have to give him props. He did the show Calls on Apple TV. Have you seen that?
The one with Halle Berry.
The
Or
one,
no, that's
it's
a
the voices
fucking
only one.
not movie. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Have you seen that?
No, but I heard it was
Oh,
good.
Yeah, that's good. It's like literally just like audio, and it has like kind of like visuals or whatever, but it's just like a series of phone calls chronicling, according to Letterboxd, the mysterious story of a group of strangers whose lives are thrown into disarray on the lead up to an apocalyptic event. And that was good. And it was a really cool concept too. So like 12 episodes or 12 minutes a piece, really quick.
That's cool.
Yeah.
He's a smart and capable guy. He'll be good for Alien.
This is his most
Guaranteed.
recent, so I have to give him that in the chance that hopefully this will be successful. The new one, new Alien. Very good. Anything else? Any other further hatred you'd like to spew at Game of Thrones?
Plenty, but I'll save that for later.
Okay. All right. Very well. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Shitty Movie Review Podcast, hosted by your favorite cat dads. I'm Matt,
I'm Dennis.
I'm Zach.
and this is...
The Litter Box.
We need a little, I want to like get some hot buttons in here with some fun sounds.
Yeah, what's the barrier to making that happen?
I don't know. There, perhaps there's not creating the audio. It's got to be fun. I want like a weekly media rundown or like something crazy and stupid like that.
Random dancing.
Yeah, right. Speaking of weekly media rundown, anything notable from either of you?
I finished The Curse from Emma Stone, Nathan Fielder, Benny Safdie.
Final rating out of 10.
Shit, dude, it's tough. Including the finale or not including the finale?
That's a dumb question.
Is it? The answer would be different.
I don't want to know. Just say your final score.
I'll have to stew on it. Maybe I'll include that later.
Okay. Anything else?
Nope, no time.
Yeah, I didn't get to watch any new Bond movies. Didn't have time.
You fell off hard.
I'm so sorry.
It just hurts. But I'll catch up next week. Don't worry. I don't know. The only thing I think I'll watch was another couple episodes of Ted. That was it.
Have you bought a plush yet?
I'm looking into it.
I heard a huge vouch
Prices.
from my favorite podcast. They said they watched Ted the series, and they said it was just like watching an episode of Family Guy, and they really appreciated it.
Oh.
They kind of parroted exactly what Zach said. So big validation from 3 more internet idiots with a podcast.
3 other internet idiots with a podcast that know movies think that we also know movies, and by we I mean Zach, and that Zach knows TV.
I really know TV.
Good job, sir. All right, so this week we watched, to much dismay of Dennis, another, and partial dismay of Zach, another Oscar nomination, because this was my pick, and I respect awards season. We watched The Zone of Interest, a new 2023 release, distributed by the ever-popular A24, directed by Jonathan Glazer, who's done a few other things, Sexy Beast and Birth, some earlier works, and most recently, prior to The Zone of Interest, Under the Skin, a sci-fi fucking, like, weird, twisty, heady kind of movie with Scarlett Johansson. That was a little bit older. But, yeah, some good stuff under his belt. This movie received several nominations for awards. 9 BAFTAs.
BAFTAs?
Did we talk about this last week?
No.
I've never heard the term BAFTA in my life.
BAFTAs are British Academy Film Awards, so like the across
obviously.
the pond version of the Oscars.
Okay.
I'm not saying that's obvious. I had to look it up too. 9 nominations for the BAFTAs, 3 Golden Globe nominations, and then the Oscars. It's got 5: Best Picture, Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best International Feature Film, and Best Sound. Zach shakes his head.
The sound part doesn't make any sense to me, but okay.
Oh boy, we're in for an episode here then. This one's starring Christian Friedel as Rudolf Höss, best known for his role in the Netflix thriller series Babylon Berlin. Dennis's second
To which we're
favorite
all
TV
familiar.
show. Probably German, dare I say. And then Sandra Hüller plays his wife Hedwig, and she's garnered international recognition after her roles in this movie and Anatomy of a Fall, which
Not
we
to
also
be-
did an episode on.
I keep wanting to refer to this movie as Anatomy of a Fall
Yeah.
because it's got her in it. It's in another language, and it's award bait.
Her name's Hedwig?
Yeah.
Not to be confused with a popular
Harry
animal
Potter's
from Harry
owl.
Potter.
The most popular owl, perhaps. Yeah, back to back, or like, simultaneous releases of Sandra Hüller
It's weird.
Oscar-nominated Best Picture movies is,
Foreign movies.
and it's like she wasn't really that popular before this on an international
Yeah.
scale, so
Never heard of her.
pretty impressive, I guess. There's obviously the common denominator there, so she deserves a pat on the back for that one. All right,
All right.
the synopsis for this, last piece before we... Dude,
Dive.
I can see you chomping at the bit over there. The commandant, I was recently told that is not commandant. Commandant,
Mm-hmm.
very French, perhaps, French word?
Go ahead.
Commandant. European word.
European. The commandant of Auschwitz, Rudolf Höss, and his wife Hedwig strive to build a dream life for their family in a house and garden next to the camp. Short, not so sweet,
But it is to the point.
succinct.
Yes, that's the movie.
All right,
I want Dennis to go before me.
let her rip.
I'm scared to go first.
Okay. Before I get into my thing, tell me if there are any excess reasons why you wanted to watch this one, aside from it being nominated and there being potential for internet buzz around it.
I saw the trailer and it looked really kind of creepy and eerie and didn't give away a whole lot. And so I thought there was some, potential there. And then, yeah, it got a fuck ton of internet buzz. Obviously, the Oscar nomination, and I don't know, I'm not hanging my hat on Oscar nominations, so to speak, but I think this one got enough recognition outside of just award season to warrant watching. So,
Okay. Cool. So you had told me when I expressed my dismay at the end of last episode for when you unveiled this movie, I was pretty, I guess, pissy about it. But then you had said, you've definitely heard of this movie. You've definitely seen the trailer for it if you don't remember. And I was like, you know what? Maybe. And then I looked up the trailer and I was like, I've certainly never heard of this movie. I've certainly never seen anything about it. And the trailer didn't give anything away.
Is it the one with like the...
You watched a trailer?
No.
Oh.
No, it was... I
That's
think
the
it was
trailer I
just
was
a
thinking
couple of shots of the two mains sitting outside their house or being on their porch or something.
Yeah.
And that was it. There was maybe like 2 lines of dialogue the entire time. And I was like, okay, well, now I know absolutely nothing going into the movie, besides the synopsis, of course. And what I will say is that this movie actually does have a really, I guess, unique subject matter and some kind of unique prose to it that I really appreciate. But I don't think that's enough for me to really get behind it being a full feature-length film, which at 105 minutes is incredible by today's standards. So that was actually a real big plus. There's not a lot of bullshit in this movie, so big thumbs up for that. However, I don't think there was really enough oomph behind it. There's something missing in there was something missing in like the driver of the movie.
Oh boy.
It seems like it was really just on autopilot the entire time. So for that, it's not going to get a great score from me, but I'm very open and willing for it to come up because there are a lot of cool things about this movie that I can start to touch on a little bit later.
Excuse me.
Namely, a lot of like shooting choices and shot design, etc.
Totally.
So,
Framing.
yes, perhaps framing, and a very adorable black dog, which I loved. So we are going to start this one off at 4.5.
Oh.
Okay.
Christ.
Wow, you almost took every single word out of my mouth. Like, that was great. I couldn't agree more.
Here, you can have them back.
Thank you. I'm very conflicted about this movie because, like Dennis said, like there's some things in this movie that are really good and very effective. And obviously there's like a billion quadrillion movies out there about this subject matter. And a lot of them, try and portray a message or, show the horrors of, probably the most horrifying and horrific acts to ever be committed on our planet in different ways. And this movie, to its credit, did it in the most unique way and cool way. But just like Dennis just said, I don't think it warrants a film. Like, there's just not enough here. So, like, I like the movie as a message. So, like Matt said last week, I don't know if he said it on the pod or directly after, but IGN had said, like, this is, like, the most important... Can you...
I think the quote was, like, the most significant piece of cinema of the century or something.
Like, that is the overstatement of
The century.
But also, I kind of agree, like, in the sense that it is an important movie, so it's like, I guess I'll go ahead and skip to a recommendation. Like, I would recommend everybody see this movie, but at the same time, that doesn't mean it's a good movie, if that makes sense. So, I don't think this is a good movie. I think, it's funny that it's 105 minutes, which is short by today's standards, as Dennis said, but also the movie felt like it was 3 hours to me. And it's just hard. Like, there's a lot about, like I said, like, it was impactful in some ways, and some of the framing and shots, and I already take back my little dig at the sound, because one of the few things that were effective was some of the sound design. Thinking about how there's like, well, I can't get into it without spoilers, but there's little bits and pieces of here that I was like, oh, this is really good, and then, but I don't think there's enough here for it to be a movie in terms of the script, and I definitely don't really understand why it would be nominated. I think it's just because of the subject matter, and it's kind of unique. And we'll get into it. I think the movie thinks it's a little too pretentious for its own good, and it kind of rubbed me the wrong way at certain times of the movie. I'll start it with a 5.6. I guess I'm going to give a little bit more weight to Dennis for some of the stuff that I thought was effective. But at the end of the day, I don't think that it's that good of a movie, and I think the subject matter is carrying it more than the movie and script should. I don't know. We'll get into it.
Okay, so 5.6 from you, 4.5 from you. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh man, that is so unfortunate.
Oh no! Don't say that.
I guessed this. I knew this was going to happen.
This movie, from the old measuring stick of what it's to do, what it set out to do, this movie maxed that out. This movie was the most like harrowing, depressing, disturbing representation of the events of the Holocaust in media that I've ever seen.
I agree with you.
it did, like you said, an extremely good. The sound is just as important as the visuals in this movie. That's why I winced at Zach earlier when he reacted to the best sound nomination. And we're kind of guided that way. We're given some kind of pushes to pay attention to the audio, which we'll talk about. But every I take notes during these movies, and I'll write down okay, I want to discuss the scene. Whatever. I wrote down the first 15 scenes, and I just stopped because I was like, is it going to be like that for everything? Every single scene was so gut-wrenching and impactful that I don't know how you guys did not get out of this. What?
Did we watch the same movie?
Yes.
The message is... we're about to go. This is going to be a fun podcast. Let him finish, though.
Also, I'm doing a lot of mouth breathing over here because my nose is stuffy, so apologies in advance. But, yeah, holy shit. This movie was it did drag a little bit at times. Or not drag, but I can see what you were saying with it being maybe a little hollow on the narrative front. But I don't think that was the point. It wasn't the point to tell a story. This was also just a boyhood in the camera on a tripod or observational movie more than narrative driven. But holy smokes, the cinematography was excellent. I was surprised this was not up for best cinematography. Like you said, some of the framing of the shots and things like that. Definitely think it will win the best sound Oscar. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot to talk about here, but hard to kind of say much without going into spoilers. I'm going to give this a 9 to start.
Okay, nice. Many things to unpack here.
Yes.
Too much.
So, spoilers. This movie is pretty much driven by, for me, the movie is pretty much driven by the idea of this family's living literally on the other side of the wall of Auschwitz, and they're living their happy little family life in their nice house with their kids. And I'm correct about this. They have sort of Jewish handmaids that kind of take care of the chores around the house. Is that right?
That's what I thought at first too, but
Yes.
they're just local girls.
Oh.
They addressed that at one point.
So they're just girls that lived around that area whenever Germany rose to power, etc. Okay. Well, this whole movie is driven by the idea that this family and society as a whole, I guess, is not directly seeing the horrors of what's happening inside the camps and sort of turning a blind eye or just believing, they're living in their fairy tale land of what's happening is what's necessary and it's okay that's happening, etc. And so I'm curious to say why you guys maybe both think this. It was so gut-wrenching because I think that's the whole point of the movie is that it's not showing you or it's not displaying the gut-wrenching realities of what's happening. It's only letting you slightly hear it and making you make all the connections yourself.
Can I start with this one?
Yeah.
Sure. This is a point I always very often bring up, whereas I'd rather not be the monster in the background. I'd rather not see it and rather know it's there. And obviously a movie based on history, like I said to start, we've seen what's happened there 1,000 times in different, and obviously in textbooks growing up,
sure.
in documentaries, in other movies, when you see the direct horror. So the movie didn't need to do that, and I will give the movie it's so much more effective, and gut-wrenching, which is Matt's phrase, with having the shots of just them living their daily lives, and then you hear fucking gunshots going off in the background. Obviously your brain knows what's going on, so you don't need to see anything for it to be gut-wrenching. If anything, it's the opposite effect, or at least for me, and obviously for Matt, where obviously you know what's going on, and just it's a unique take for sure, and maybe not for everyone, but to me it was more impactful and powerful seeing these people live their lives and giving the blind eye, and all you get is the background. It's harrowing. It's
Yeah, I don't know what the word harrowing means. What is that?
I'll give you
an official definition.
definition.
Oxford, Webster's is cooked.
Merriam. Oh,
Merriam.
It's all the same. It's words. Hold. Acutely distressing, extremely disturbing or distressing, grievous.
Okay.
Did you have more there? Now that we've got his definition out of the way.
Not really.
Okay. Yeah. I agree with what Zach said. The fact that, obviously you're not going to see necessarily what's happening in this because the whole point is, they're it's not important to them in terms of like it's not disturbing or whatever. They're on board with it. They are they're
perpetrating
the perpetrator. Thank you. That's what I was looking for.
Mhm.
And so to see that they can just go on and like swim in the pool and hang out at the lake while literally mass genocide is being conducted
20 feet away.
20 feet away.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you don't need to see it. I think that, I mean, obviously we know what's happening, so that's not part of it. And just having like, it feels more of a true experience of what they would have, the main characters would have gone through by only hearing, because that's primarily what happened with them.
And that, I guess that's why I'm saying that I like really appreciate this approach to this movie, because I don't think this is something we've seen. We haven't really seen a feature piece of media that focuses on, you know, how quite easy it was and how, I guess, sunshine and rainbows the lives of the perpetrators were. But I think the things that worked for me most in this movie were the moments where it wasn't always sunshine and rainbows, and how there was contrast between, you know, the stark, distressing, harrowing reality. I'm thinking of the scene where he's fly fishing in the river or whatever, and then the lower jawbone hits him in the leg, and he picks it up out of the river because I guess they're flushing the human waste, for lack of a better term, into the river that he's in,
Right.
from the camp. That to me was one of the parts of the movie that worked better, because we actually got to see some of the horror, and I think maybe just something that was juxtaposed, so like the sunshine and rainbows lives of the German family, and then the actual horrific events that were happening inside. If we had a more night and day blend between those two, maybe this movie would have worked better for me.
A blend or a juxtaposition, because this movie is juxtaposition the movie.
Yeah, literally.
Oh, well, maybe I don't know what juxtaposition or blending
is like
means either.
having, referencing the
Like, I could
internet.
really go for a shot of this family celebrating at their birthday party with, at the same time, like, you know how throughout the movie we're hearing like those small gunshots in the background and like yelling and stuff of like prisoners or guards or whatever. I would have really appreciated, you know, like a little birthday cake blowing out the candle scene, and then immediately like cut to like a shot of the camp with people being like shot or yelled at or, you know, loaded into a train or something. Something that really contrast.
Like hardcore contrast.
Yes,
but like
hard contrast.
But the thing is that
That's subjective, because I kind of agree with that. But that's not
that's
the
like
point.
we get that in so many other ways that are more genuine. Like they don't see that stuff. Not that they don't know what's happening. Obviously, they know what's happening, and the fact that they're turning a blind eye to it is the whole point. But showing like that they're willing to experience those things firsthand and they still don't care is more powerful than experience, like knowing that it's happening, so to speak. Like, for example, we have, I'm just trying to get a quick example here. So like we can hear the sounds of a gunshot in the background and early in the movie, and a boy kind of turns and looks and then like looks back, and just like that. Or like, and they're playing and then like he hears someone outside getting killed and he's like, oh, and then just goes back to playing with his toys. Like that's so much more powerful because it's showing what he is experiencing and has basically been conditioned to not care about, as opposed to like this thing happening with the family, this thing happening inside the camp. Those things aren't being experienced by this, like at the same time, by the same people.
I agree. But I guess to that point, I'm just going to like echo what I've said, I guess. That to me makes the movie just less impactful. Like the fact, I appreciate what it's doing. I understand why it's doing that and why these characters, you know, this is why they don't feel any kind of like humanity for anything going on inside the camp. It's because they're not exposed to it. They're propagated not to know, and like it's okay. It's supposed to happen and stuff. But it just lacks like any kind of punch for me because of that. The impact is totally lost on me.
The fact that they like get a delivery of like dead Jews' clothes.
Yes.
It's not like
that's a portion that, thank you for reminding me about that. That and I guess the portion where the kid's like has his flashlight in bed and he's like playing with, I'm thinking like the gold fillings and the teeth of like assumed to be deceased Jewish people.
Yeah.
That was a little bit of a gut punch, I guess. So that's a plus.
See,
those were cool points.
Like I guess this also goes into my problem with this film is that like I understood the message and got every gut punch I needed within the first 10 minutes. and then the rest of the movie was just the same thing. And so I guess
I think that's
subjective to kind of what the movie's or what your opinion or perspective on what the movie's going for. But like the coat scene and like I was so into this movie because like I read a little bit about the movie beforehand, and then like as soon as she like puts on the coat and like you realize what's happening, it's like holy shit, this is so fucked.
Yeah.
And then that was kind of the movie for me. I never got anything else more than that.
No, but that's the point. And I think also you bring up a good point that I wanted to discuss is like we're fucking slapped in the face with these holy shit scenes like back to back to back to back for like the first 20, 25, 30 minutes. And to the point where, like I said, I'm writing literally all these scenes down. I'm like, why am I doing this? Because everything is equally disturbing and fucked. But also, I think it proves the point that, like, as the characters in the movie are experiencing, over time you become desensitized to, like, what's happening. Like the violence and the like atrocities that are happening. And I felt like, even as a viewer, that over time, I felt desensitized to that. Because I've just been battered over the head with it for 30 minutes straight.
I don't disagree with that necessarily. I kind of agree with that. I guess my problem is I don't think in terms of the structure of the film and trying to judge or criticize or judge this movie or just try and, form an opinion on it, like, I don't think it has to do with being desensitized. I think it has to do with, like this movie would have been, like, I don't think it should have been a movie. Like, I think it's so hard to say that because I started with everybody should see this movie. It's important. But at the same time, as a moviegoer, it's like I did not need to go to a movie theater and sit down and spend almost 2 hours watching this. Like I said, the first 30 minutes, like everything that this movie tried to show and what it showcased, as you said, it couldn't have done it better. It was brilliant. Could have been done in a 30-minute YouTube short in a very creative, unique way. The first 30 minutes, I got everything I needed. And then the rest of the movie, it's not even like more shit keeps happening every scene. If anything, they stop showing stuff gradually, and at the end, we get all these shots of like the main guy, Rudolf, just like at work. Like I got nothing out of the last 30 minutes of this movie. Like I don't know. As a structure, I thought the movie failed in that regard. And maybe I just completely missed some points of the movie. Like there's some useless stuff in the movie. Like I don't think we needed to see Rudolf cheating on his wife with a Jew. Like I get the message I was saying, but in terms of the script, I'm like, or the story, it's like they just brushed that to the side. I don't know. I have a lot of issues with the second half of this movie, but the first half I was so bought in. But I'm like, I just think this should have been like a documentary, a 30-minute, powerful message on YouTube or the History Channel instead of somebody writing a script. And let's just. But then at the same time, I contradict myself because I'm like, I'm glad they did that because that's the only way. I'm not going to go on YouTube and just look this up and watch some fucking random thing. Exactly. It needs to go to cinema and it needs to be seen. So I'm like, I keep contradicting myself. So I have very mixed feelings about that. But I wanted to explain that.
Yeah, and I'm just getting antsy over here and keep trying to butt in. So sorry for that.
Go ahead.
But the like kind of maybe falling off as you're describing of the second half of the movie. Like, you still get things in there. They're literally having this business meeting where they're talking about the fact that they're going to round up fucking hundreds of thousands of Jews and, like, what's the most efficient way to do that? And here's the trains coming in. They're carrying 4,000 people 12 times a day, blah, 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 whatever. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, you're seeing the logistical, like, you go to work and you figure out how to fucking give a client a machine that cuts metal. These people are going to work to find out the most efficient way to kill Jewish people.
I get that. Well, maybe desensitized is right, but not in the format or in the formula of the film, but more so I'm desensitized because I've already seen movies of literally those exact conversations. Like I know everything that happened. Like nothing was just like gut-wrenching or shocking to me at that point. It was cool, like seeing them bring in the clothes in the beginning of the movie. I haven't seen that before. So I guess it's like what I've seen, what I haven't seen.
No, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I think I agree with that, and that the first half of the movie is like showing more unique like perspective compared to other, because as we've said, like this is I'd be curious to know, like, if this is measured anywhere, how many films are made on, like, subject matter, and if World War II or, like, like the Holocaust probably leads that.
Yeah, 100%.
In media, movies, whatever. And so, yeah, we're familiar with the story and the context, but the first half is straight up unique perspective. The second half is still fucked up, but, yeah, maybe not as shocking as the first half, but I still think, again, it's not necessarily based on this story. It's based on just like prying your eyes open and like watch this kind of thing. That's like it's necessary more than anything. It's necessary that people see this and understand. Like,
I totally agree with that, but at the same time, I'm like, if that's what it was going for, and like there's zero story, and you're just watching this, I do think it could have done better. I think it could have been more effective and more gut punching than what it was for the second half of the movie. If that's what it was going for, like if that's what you're saying, like the script does not matter. There is no story. This is just a peek into, like you said, boyhood of like what literally was going on back then. Then I wanted to see more horrific stuff. If that's the case.
I mean, the script matters. I just don't think the narrative is as important or as much of a focal point as maybe you were expecting. But yeah,
I feel like if the narrative was maybe not supposed to be as big of a concept in this movie, then I wish it would have like decided that a little harder, because like kind of like Zach's saying, the whole second half is no longer really about what I think is the zone of interest, which is like the house on the other side of the wall of the camp. It's about kind of like this familial drama of the husband, you know, getting a job reassignment and how that affects his relationship with his family or his kids or his wife, his marriage. And I guess that also just kind of deviates from what I did like about the movie, which is kind of what Zach has been saying.
Thank you. I agree totally.
The unique part where it's it's the elephant in the room that everybody kind of understands is happening, but no one is addressing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it was exactly what we're saying. Like our favorite parts. The first 30 minutes was just exactly what I wanted from this movie.
And to that point, I'm glad like you also share this sentiment, but I feel like it does fit much better into the format of like probably like a short film, something that's like 30 minutes, maybe even 45, because there is a lot of good portions of this movie. But
like I'm here for some of the familiar drama, just like seeing how the wife is so entitled. And how she acts, and like, you know, she's
a nasty woman.
Yeah, and like there's mass genocide going on 20 feet away, and meanwhile she's mad that, you know, her food's not cooked right, or I don't think that exactly happened, but you know what I mean.
She's got to move.
She's got to move, and now she's like freaking out. It's like she doesn't understand the concept or self-awareness of her problems versus what's going on right next door.
That's what I really liked.
But yeah, that was good.
I did like the portion of how it does display. It does juxtapose, new word I learned today, the problems of a regular family, and it kind of displays them in contrast of an actual problem per se.
Yeah, well, but it's like
I totally agree with that.
I guess I'm struggling to understand how that's not as effective for you as it was for me. Every single thing that happens in this movie to this family is fucking minusculely trivial compared to what's happening 20 feet away.
Of course, and I think that's like a cool concept. I like that because it's comparing them.
No, we love that.
Yeah, I know, but
like we wanted more of that. I guess what we're saying is the second half of the movie, it starts getting it kind of goes away from that, and it's just focusing on
it no longer
the husband and wife.
It like kind of no longer really has to do with the family living on the other side of the wall of the concentration camp.
Exactly.
Well, it's got to paint the context of like where this lives in the grander narrative. Like it can't have no narrative. I think this movie's assuming that the general audience knows enough about the context and the overarching narrative that it doesn't need to spend a lot of time doing that. So it does that in maybe a more shallow fashion, and just gives you like kind of hints at the context. Like at the end when he gets reassigned and he's developing like gas chambers for use for the Hungarian Jews that are coming. And it's like, okay, now I know like where this is placed in time and things like that. Like I don't like what more of the narrative would you have wanted? Because I think you would make the argument that if it spent more time on the narrative, then
that's not what we're saying. We don't want narrative. If that's the goal of the movie, and like we said, we're just peeking in a window of what was going on. Like I'm all for artsy movies. Me and you saw N.S. Men at the movie. That's a definition of no narrative, and that movie was just dumb and stupid. It wasn't based on historical context. I would have gone for a movie like I would have probably been given this a 9 out of 10 if there was no narrative and it was just like straight the first 30 minutes of this movie.
I mean, this is like maybe not a fair argument of me to make, but I feel like if you got the same thing that we got in the first 30 minutes for an hour and a half, you would
obviously
say the same
not
thing.
the exact same thing, but
no, it's a fair argument.
I just think the last 30 minutes are useless. I love the first 30 minutes and I love the last 5. This made a good 40-minute short film.
To me, I think the desensitization or like the drop off of shock factor after the first half was intentional. And maybe you guys don't see it that way, but I mean,
Well,
that's how I felt in the moment. I'm like, it's fucked that I feel like this is not as shocking as it was 20 minutes ago.
I feel that. I'm glad that you could get that from that, but for me, there was just I didn't feel a fraction of the shock factor or the gut wrenching that I think you guys maybe both did. And I think that was maybe the point, or maybe just something molecularly in this movie didn't work for me.
Okay.
Well, I think we just disagree. I just want to we'll finalize this then if Matt wants to move on. But I disagree with the desensitized fact because even even certain scenes in the movie that are more impactful to me subjectively. One of the most impactful is when Sandra Hüller's mom comes and stays, and then we get a shot of her waking up in the middle of the night, smelling the fucking fires of the burning Jews in the whatever. I forget what they call it. Well, I forgot what they called the actual rooms, whatever. But and she smells it, and then she just fucking bails.
Incinerator.
And she leaves. Incinerator, yeah. And then she just leaves and doesn't even say showing that she was early in the movie so proud of her daughter for kind of making it and
locking down a high quality man.
Yeah, raising a family and have all this money, and she realized this is how she got it, and then she doesn't even say bye to her own daughter. I love that. That was extremely effective. I'm not saying that. To me, my personal opinion, I don't think the shock factor necessarily dropped off, and I don't think it was a problem with desensitization. Desensitization.
No V.
Desensination.
Where'd the V come from?
You made it.
My only problem about what we're talking about right now is the movie went away from what it was doing well to me, and that was we focused too much on the Rudolf and his doings. Matt's mad. He wants to move on.
No, I'm not mad. I'm just understanding what you're saying. It's more subjective and what you were wanting from it, and that's fine.
I didn't even gather that was the mother that was bailing out, and that she was the one that had to close the window because of the smell. Mm-hmm. Was she sharing a room with one of the local girl handmaids then?
I don't know.
No, they gave her the room, and then they moved the handmaids to another room.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought
there was someone else in the room with her.
Yeah. Okay. So I thought that was two different local people that were smelling it. I had no idea what was going on with the mom.
Shame.
Yeah, I think it was maybe too darkly lit in the room where she closed the window, and I couldn't piece together that was her, because the defining characteristic for the mother versus the other older handmaids was the hair color. The mother had lighter hair, right?
I don't really remember. I just remember she looked visibly much older.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Whatever.
But yeah, that scene that you're talking about, particularly the shot of her after she's closed the window and the kind of see-through blind or the see-through curtain and the orange on her face was holy shit. That might be one of my favorite shots in the movie. Just
absolutely. And then
it's so dude. It's just so fucking crazy. Gabby during parts she was just I heard her just being holy shit, holy shit, holy shit. And I was do you like this movie, or are you just annoyed by it, or whatever? And it was just the fact that it was every single scene was just hitting that she was reacting like that, which was crazy.
And one of I think the first 5 or 10 minutes, and I was oh shit, it was just Rudolph just standing there. He's at work in the camp, and it's just gray clouds in the background, and you just see his face, and you just hear the screams and gunshots. That's when I was okay, we're in for it. And I wanted a lot more shit like that.
All right, so let's talk about the sound. The sound is a huge element of this film. Jonathan Glazer has said that basically there's two movies in one. It's the audio and the video. We're shown a opening screen, black screen with audio only, kind of some music, and then it turns to some chirping of birds and nature sounds at the beginning that goes on for what feels like 2
hours,
2 to 3 minutes or something, which is kind of meant to prepare us for the importance of paying attention to the audio and the role that's going to play in this movie. Because while we have the visual scenes of smokestacks and chimneys from the incinerators and just some other incoming trains and things like that that are happening in the background over the course of the movie, we hear screams, we hear gunshots, we hear, like you said, yelling guards, people saying, "Oh, drown him!"
Drown him in the river.
Yeah, and all this is just kind of bumbling in the background a little bit. like white noise, but the white noise is literally people fucking screaming for their lives and dying.
It's like that kind of sound, like when they're doing construction outside your house or your office. You hear it in the background.
It's fucking insane. Like I don't know. Like it's such a simple concept, and like obviously that will be effective, but I guess maybe I didn't expect it to be like have the holy shit factor for me.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see how it's the not knowing or the not seeing. Nope, literally no pun intended. That does so much for you, whereas it just does so little for me.
You hate that in like on all films. Like that's a fair point for you, just because you're very consistent on that point.
Well, no, I'm usually a show don't tell. Oh, I guess I am.
Exactly.
I am. I want to be shown a little more than here. But this was kind of showing by not showing, which I do appreciate. And that's like the thing that I keep saying is like I appreciate the idea of it.
But it's not for you.
I guess here it just really wasn't.
Like,
I thought I was in the wrong movie theater, or that something was wrong with the projector whenever we had just like 2.5 minutes of ambient noise and sound with no visual.
People were literally talking in my theater like, should we go tell somebody?
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. Yeah.
So that just didn't really work for me. I thought I was in for a bad ride whenever that started, and thankfully it got much better from there, but like it started off on the wrong foot for me.
Another scene that stuck with me that also deals with the sound is when they're just like showing like real close-up shots of like the plants and the flowers, and just like how life is like growing, and like that's, you know, showcasing the family's life, and in the background you can fucking hear all the horrific shit going on. Like that scene sticks out to me. That was another incredible one.
The flower shots and the mom in the window shot were definitely my favorites.
Same.
Yeah, that was oh god, dude. It's just like it's such a simple formula. Like pleasurable, you know, video, harrowing audio, and it's just like
so harsh.
It hits every time.
Yeah, I love that kind of stuff.
And it's just, I don't know. It's interesting that can have such a strong effect for sure. Any other scenes, Dennis? I know you were talking about framing some earlier. What were some of the scenes that stood out to you, or some examples of that?
No scenes in particular. When I think of like the framing and the cool, unique mechanical aspects of the movie, I'm thinking about how there was not a single like tracking or panning shot in the entire movie. Everything was on a static camera that faced one direction.
We had a lot of panning shots in this movie.
Do we know what panning means?
Perhaps not.
Okay.
Panning. My interpretation, or like my thought that I was thinking, is when like a lot of times they're walking in the backyard and it's like moving along the wall. But
maybe I totally missed that part, but I didn't catch any shots where any camera was moving, actually. All I was seeing, and most of the movie for sure, is shot on a static camera with one frame until it cuts to the next one. And I thought that was really
as if it's like a documentary. Yeah,
right. Like in the house, it's almost like security camera.
Every single room has a different camera. Every time this guy walks down a hallway, it cuts to a different angle. It never like follows him. It was a very still camera for most of the movie. Maybe there are a couple of panning shots.
That was effective, though.
Yeah. So the couple of the shots that I was talking about that I think are also really effective are like they have this huge backyard with this huge garden and a greenhouse and a pool, and it's really beautiful. And we have a couple shots of Hedwig in particular, I think, walking kind of from one end to the other, and it just pans with her, and in the background you see the wall and then like some buildings from the camp over the wall, and it's just showing like all this space of beauty, and then like what's happening on the other side. That's like all this space of, you know, disturbance and genocide and everything like that.
Yeah,
so
I thought that cinematography was a strength as well.
It was cool to feel like a fly on the wall during the movie.
You have no complaints from a technical aspect. I mean, it couldn't have done better. It was outstanding. One thing I wanted to talk about is basically like the kind of the last scene of the movie where it cuts to real time of Auschwitz and
the Holocaust Museum.
Exactly. Because I subjectively like was just like thinking and pondering, like seeing that scene and like what it meant to me. So this will probably be very subjective. I'm curious to see what you guys think. But like my thoughts like running through my head during that was like, and I don't know if this was intentional by the director, but it's like we're sitting here, and I don't want to use the word idolizing, but were like cleaning and like making this museum like perfect, which is another juxtaposition of all the horrific things that happen. They're like cleaning the fucking chimneys.
Yeah,
and
like that.
And that just got me thinking, and it's like it started making me question like what is the true purpose of these museums, and like I'm not somebody that thinks like that's not something I want to go see in real life, because it's like, and this started making me think about humanity and like kind of the selfishness of humanity, and it's like and maybe I'm just totally off my rocker here, but I feel like people like go to these museums and like to cry and show emotion, and like that like does something for them selfishly, and like because like I would not like, I don't know. Do you understand kind of where I'm going?
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain this.
I mean, I think it serves a lot of good, obviously, and it's very important to remember and not forget what's happened.
Yeah,
in the
not
past.
forget. Yeah,
but yeah, I do. I mean, I see what you're saying, that some people kind of with like Black Lives Matter, like they participate to say that they did and to like feel like they're doing something good, more so maybe than they are actually believing in the movement. But,
yeah, it's like I'm conflicted about that. I don't know how to feel, because I'm like, on one end I'm like, yes, obviously you don't want to forget, like this is so important that we understand what happened, why it happened, and to move forward, whether this is the 1950s right after it happened or here we are how many years later.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like it's also like I don't even know. The whole movie is a juxtaposition, and in my mind it's also the same. Like I'm just so conflicted about everything.
I didn't really understand the what it was trying to do by having, the movie's wrapping up. He's leaving his office for the night. He walks down a couple stairs, and then he sort of like dry heaves for a little bit, and then you get cuts to the cleaning crew at the opening of the Holocaust Museum, or just making sure that the museum and displays are clean for the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And then it cuts back to him. He walks down another flight of stairs, dry heaves again, more cutting back to the Holocaust Museum. Maybe that was just totally over my head, but I didn't really understand what it was trying to do there, or what the point of even including Holocaust Museum footage was.
Well, yeah, I think to Zach's point, and I didn't even really. I mean, I think when I first saw it, I was thinking like, okay, they're showing like maybe more matter of fact elements of what happened, as opposed to like this pseudo or semi-fictional account of Rudolf Höss and his family's experience. So like actually seeing all the shoes and all the clothes and the bags and all of that, and being like just another like kind of like the documentary style, like having that little bit in there.
Yeah.
In terms of how it was comparing with Rudolf, I can kind of see what you're saying. It's a little bit lost, but I mean when he's going down the stairs and like dry heaving, I think it's more of like a metaphor for like the fucking like how evil, like the evil and just like the disgusting, like his disgusting nature, and also just like Hedwig comes across as much more like nonchalant about it and like really doesn't give a fuck. Höss is obviously directly involved, but he comes across as like maybe more of a thoughtful person than Hedwig. And so maybe like deep down in his core, it's like he feels that this is wrong, and he's like, it's like a physical representation of like sickness. Like, like you see something or someone, like if you see like a dead person, people like throw up if they see that shit.
Yeah.
And so it's like that kind of thing. Like even though at a conscious level you're not like,
yeah.
Well, also he's literally sick and dry heaving because he's been breathing in the smoke of burned bodies.
Right.
For
Yeah.
Several weeks. In a row.
Also the physical aspect of it.
But also,
I totally
like
didn't
that
put any of that
aspect, too.
together. So thank you for opening my eye.
But also, I do agree that like, and this again goes back to my point where like this should have been like more of a like artsy, like zero narrative, like quick cuts back to like, today, the museum. Like I love that artsy kind of aspect of it, but from a structural standpoint of the movie, it didn't really make sense. I'm sitting there like, why are they cutting directly back and forth to Rudolph and that? There really wasn't any string there to be tied to the two. I don't want to say narratives because there is no narrative, but I don't know. It didn't really make any sense to me, but I still understood the importance, I guess is the point.
Yeah, I think I kind of had a similar experience during, but after thinking about it, I think it's like he did this. Like he is throwing up. Here's what he did. Here's all the dead Jews. And like showing like Dennis's point more so like an inside shot of what's happening inside the camp, or like the final result, as opposed to like how it's inconveniencing, quote unquote, the Höss family.
That's fair. I can see that.
But yeah, it was a little interesting. But the juxtaposition piece that you said too is also good because obviously these workers at the museum are not bad people. Like they're not like Haas, but still the level of like, I go to work every day and like here's a bunch of clothing articles from like a genocide, and like the nonchalance kind of, or like the desensitization of that's just their job, and they like clean up around and like all that stuff exists over there. It's almost like we do kind of forget. We don't forget, but we definitely is not maybe as shocking as it was at the time that it occurred.
And that's why like I'm glad the movie ended that way. And if I had to pick a favorite part of the movie, it's literally that, which is funny. It's literally the modern day stuff because that message hit me the hardest. And it's literally the entire point of the movie. It's just like turning a blind eye, and it's like I sit here now in 2024, privileged as fuck, and I'm like, I still like do not believe that it happened in a way. Like there's just no way that like humanity could do that. Like it doesn't make any sense.
Happening right now. That's another thing I want to talk about is the timeliness of this movie. We have the genocide happening in Gaza right now, which is like, and then having this movie release, I think is like a perfect timing for that reminder of like, what the fuck are we doing? And then also on like, definitely not the genocide scale, but just like the U.S. is kind of marching into potentially a fascist situation with Trump. And so you have like, why are we forgetting like what happened here? Like, why are we not using our past to inform our decisions? Like, it's crazy. There was like a lot of the times the Haas family reminded me of like Trump supporters now and how they just don't give a fuck about, basic humanities or like basic rights that people should have. And they just go about their day. And yeah, I don't know. I think the currents or the fact the movie's so current or relevant currently is another big part for me.
No, I definitely agree.
I'm struggling to breathe over here. You can't tell.
It seems rough, and I feel really bad.
It's okay.
Appreciate the moments that you don't feel like this more.
Yeah, right. Fuck. Any other... Oh, did you guys... Was I the only one confused by the apples for a while? Or the fruit?
I mean, I knew what she was doing.
I didn't know who it was, but it was a cool stylistically thing. I've never seen any movie that utilizes like thermal vision that way. That was neat.
Yeah.
I got the idea though.
Yeah, I guess. And I didn't know she was like hiding it for the prisoners. Yeah. And then we hear the one shot later on, or the one kind of background noise of when the little kid's playing with the toys, and he's like, they're fighting over an apple, and he's like, drown him in the river.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't realize that was that apple or one of those apples. Yeah. Good point.
So good. It's like, it's also sad because like she's trying to help them, but her
literally
action
killing them
basically got him killed.
And then also the more impactful, I can't talk today. The more impactful like reasons for that scene to me was like the Rudolph telling the child story in the background, which was also thematic.
Right. Yeah.
I thought that was neat.
And the song, how she found the song when she was giving the apples, and she like plays it on the piano, and it's like a song that one of the prisoners wrote like sheet music for and like lyrics for, and basically folded it up and put it in this tin so that it would be fireproof, which is just like the little things like that are just like so fucked.
I didn't get any of this. I didn't realize there was a song in the tin. I couldn't tell what the hell that was.
It was
not immediately clear, but then you see the folded up paper as like a sheet music later on, like right afterwards, and then she's playing the song. The Polish girl is playing the song on the piano, and she's singing it, or someone's, I don't know if she's singing it or if someone's like in the background singing or whatever, but and it's talking about like freedom. One day we'll be free, and like right now all we see is fire, and like it's fucking
that scene disturbing. Was straight up not in the version that I saw.
Sorry that you saw a different movie than this.
It wasn't easy to catch, but the only visual cue you get is like in the thermal vision scene, she opens the container and you see it's all crumpled up, the paper.
I couldn't tell what it was. It looked like Vaseline or something.
You're not supposed to know what it is. You're supposed to visually see that it's crumpled, and it's like...
I couldn't tell it was crumpled. It looked like petroleum jelly.
Oh.
I know, it was a little bit tough to see,
easy,
but then they showed the sheet music like right after, so I was able to connect it. But yeah, there's just like so many, I don't know, a lot of good choices in this and well written, and I think the examples that they came up with for, so those disturbing moments, or like to deliver those gut wrenching punches, were really effective and like I don't even want to know what the writing room was like for this, or like I don't know who wrote this, or if it was a group of people, or if it was just let me take a look. But yeah, and then extremely well acted by everyone, primarily our two leads, because they have to act in the most vile way. And when they're reading the script and they're like, I have to say this and like make it look like I think like this, like the mental gymnastics that you have to do to like convince yourself that that's okay, even though you know you're acting. It's just like fucking mind blowing to me.
I didn't think it was all that impressive.
Same.
I think the acting was. I don't think that's that hard to do as an actor.
They do that all. There's so many movies, like movies about slavery.
Every bad guy is able to play
yeah.
a bad guy pretty well.
I don't know about you guys, but if you're sitting here saying it's gut wrenching to watch, imagine acting that out.
Well, I'm not even saying it was gut wrenching.
But the whole point of the movie is they're just acting as if nothing's happening. So in a way, they're just acting.
Right,
like,
I know, but them as people are not like that. I would find that an extremely hard task, personally, but we don't have to agree necessarily.
I just signed up for acting school, so I'm better than
you. Yeah, we see shots of like the colors of the Nazi flag at times. We start off with the black, and then I think we get white at one point, and then we get red.
I thought it was orange. Fuck, dude. This movie just missed for me as a person.
Trying to think of any other scenes worth mentioning that we haven't talked about. Yeah, just like a couple of juxtaposition scenes, like the framing of one shot, the two kids laying in the bunk bed, the top one looking at the teeth, and the bottom one like playing with the flashlight, and like it being cut almost directly in the middle by the bunk.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was like a cool technique. Yeah, and then like we have the pool scene, and they're having a pool party, and like literally right in the background's a chimney with smoke coming out of it. It's just like, oh god, dude, everything. In this
so I guess
movie.
during that entire time, obviously, like incineration is happening. Is everybody at this pool party not like smelling it? Like, is it not adversely affecting them?
Not enough to stop having a pool party, and that's the point.
It's like living with a cat and with a litter box. It's like you get so used to the smell of it that at some point you don't even smell it anymore, and you're like, oh, I gotta fucking clean it.
Maybe I could see that.
Yeah, same kind of thing, which is disgusting. The fact that
cats.
Sorry, not the cat part. Getting used to the smell of burning flesh happening 20 feet away from you. Yeah, I'm just used to it. It's fucking wild.
And then we have a scene where Höss is like going around locking every door of the house in like multiple layers of doors. So there's like an outer door and then like an inner door, and he's like locking all these. It's like, oh yeah, gotta protect from the danger outside when the danger's inside the fucking house. It's like, yeah, so many. This does so many little things so fucking good, and yeah. Even the opening shot, like after the blackness or the darkness, we see the family at the lake. And like even that for me was like, holy shit. And it's just such a simple shot. But like knowing the context. Knowing that they can just go about and have like a nice, pleasurable day. And this is like the first instance that we're getting. It obviously gets worse, but it's just like, yeah, I don't know. You don't have to show anything because the context does all the heavy lifting.
Damn, I feel like it just did a horrible job of like giving that context and like providing it, because after this 2.5 minute black screen where there's just birds chirping and everything, we see this family having a good time at the lake. And I had no idea. I was like, okay, what? I didn't even know if they were German at that point. No one had said anything. So, shame, I feel like.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. How many different trailers for this movie did you watch before it came out or before you saw it?
Just the one that was like a teaser trailer that had like that sound that was like... Brr.
Smells like the smoke monster from Lost.
Eerie sounds. I watched one in it that had that. I think it showed before something at Independent Picture House, but...
How much Googling about this movie did you do before you saw it?
None. Only the synopsis. Knowing that they were like the family next door.
Okay.
Next door to the camp. Yeah. The washing of the blood off the boots.
Mm-hmm.
Them sitting in the living room discussing the most efficient incinerator that uses the heat to carry from one chamber to the next, and they're like, okay, yeah, like how? Explain this to me.
Yeah, it's like a board meeting.
It's just like, oh, bro. I'm really sad that you in particular, I know Zach got some of it, but I wish you guys had a better experience with this because I think it was so good. But
I wish I would have had a better
We'll get to it in our
experience,
closing
too.
thoughts. I mean, It was impactful, and it's important everybody sees this, but it doesn't make for necessarily good, great film that deserves all these awards. It deserves awards for the subject matter, not for any sort of... Well, it definitely deserves awards for the cinematography and sound, but nothing else to me.
Yeah, execution-wise, I think it doesn't really hold up. There's nothing really to bolster it behind
Best picture,
the idea.
Absolutely not. That's only because of the subject matter.
I disagree with that.
Fight back.
Here he has over the last hour and a half.
5 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. Final thoughts, shall we?
Yes, please.
Sure. So, a lot of what I've been saying the entire time. The approach to the movie, very unique, very cool, and I like that. But the format of it being a full-length feature, there was not enough there to really, I guess, bring me around on what it was trying to say. It felt rather empty, and I understand that was partially the point. I get it. I do. I really do. But I just didn't come away with any... It didn't do for me what it wanted to do. So on Matt's side of the table, did it do what it set out to do? Yes, 100% for him. For me, man, maybe like 10%, 15 tops. It just fell flat. I don't know. I'm not going to really recommend it to anybody, but if somebody does a director's cut that shortens the movie by 30%, then I'd recommend it to a lot of people, because this would make for a really good short. I could see it being like probably a really, really renowned movie if it just wasn't what it was, man. I feel bad saying that, but yeah, not a great movie in my opinion. I'll land it at a 4.
Go drops half a point somehow.
Yeah.
Right.
It was just so, oh my gosh, I feel like it just thought it was so much more artiste than it actually was or should have been. And then, yeah, I'm not here for the pretentiousness.
Interesting.
Yeah, I partially agree. Yeah, I mean, from the positive standpoint, as we said, I mean, the cinematography was outstanding, sound was good, and just the simplicity of, it didn't need a narrative, and then that's why I get mad, because it tries to throw in a narrative kind of in the second half of the movie, which took me away from it. But I loved, well, I don't want to use the word loved in this review, but I enjoyed how, they portrayed this in a unique way, the subject matter, in a way that we haven't seen before, in a genre, as we've said, that's been kind of overdone. Not that you could ever overdo, this message per se, but it was a unique way to portray this message, which I'm very happy I've seen, and that's why I would, I think it is an important movie, as IGN said, not the most important movie of all time, but I think every human being should watch this, and even if you don't necessarily get something out of it, to Dennis's point, that message still needs to creep within you. But from a film standpoint, if I had to sit here and judge the movie, how I felt during it, how I felt after, how I feel now, I just don't think it's that great of a film. I appreciate some of the technical and artsy stuff it did, and I liked it, but I will agree with Dennis, from a full feature-length film standpoint, it did kind of fall flat, and as I said, especially in the second half of the movie, and I think it could have done a better job, just from a movie standpoint, not from a message standpoint. You get the message in the first 5 minutes, pretty clear, and I don't know. It definitely it left me wanting more, I guess, too, in terms of it's very conflicting. I don't want to say from a story standpoint or a narrative standpoint, but just from, I don't know. It didn't feel complete. It didn't feel whole. But again, I really appreciated the message, and I recommend this to everyone. I'll slightly raise my score to a 6, but I can't really go higher than that.
So this was juxtaposition of your positive thoughts and negative thoughts in your head.
Yeah.
Juxtaposition, by the way, I know we never came back to that. That's just like contrast, like putting two things that contrast against each other in the same scene. So, yes, this movie was really good for me. I thought it was extremely effective in what it set out to do. Did it in a way that I had not seen before, which I think is a very tall order given the popularity, quote unquote, of the subject matter, or the, volume of usage of the subject matter. I think it was beautifully shot. in a way that really nailed its points or drilled those points home. I think it was really well acted. Again, not demanding from a like emotional perspective, or like there wasn't a lot of raised emotions amongst the actors that we saw that would necessitate a, you know, really dedicated artist to portray. But I think the subject matter and the people that they had to pretend that they were, I would never want to spend a fucking day pretending I was that person. And they probably had some sort of internal fight with themselves about that, I would assume. Trying to think of what else I have to say about this. The sound is incredible. I think that honestly made the movie what it was. Without that, it would have not has been as sharp for me in its delivery. And yeah, I'm gonna give this one. I'm gonna keep this at 1 out of 9. And I hope that maybe one day you'll watch it again and at least hear the song.
Yeah, dude. Maybe I'll look up the song part on YouTube or something, but I have no memory of that happening.
Alrighty. Well, this one was a fucking sad and wretched movie, but we're going to be watching something a little bit better next week. Zach's been excited with this one for a while, so I'll go ahead and let him.
I'm actually excited for this too.
No, you're not.
No, I actually am.
Oh,
I'll
good.
tell you why.
Okay. Yeah, so with the upcoming release of Dune Part 2 in early March, we're going to review the first Dune Part 1, which I'm very, very excited. I've seen it once, and I cannot wait to see it a second time because I kind of forget a lot about it. So yeah. Dennis, why are you excited for this?
Because I came out of this movie the same way I came out of Oppenheimer, which was rather disappointed and not really, I guess, drinking the Kool-Aid that everybody else was, to the point where I got in an argument and about how much more I enjoyed the movie Old by M. Night Shyamalan than Dune, and how I was told how I'm just incorrect as a person and probably a living creature for that. So I'm excited to give this one another shot because I haven't seen it since that day. And I'm kind of, as of right now, of the opinion that this movie is largely boring and a little bit empty aside from a cool set and, attractive visuals.
That's one half of a story, so you got to keep that in mind.
I know, dude. Fuck that formula, though.
I'm here.
Yeah, fuck the fact that sequels exist. Who would ever want that?
No, he wants a complete story all wrapped in one, and then you do a sequel.
Yeah. Make it cohesive.
The fact that it doesn't end, it makes it cohesive.
I guess, but I don't want an entire for fucking 3 hours of a movie like Dune is, dude. I want there to be something that happens.
Cut it in half, but stick it together. That's what you're asking.
It's called a 6-hour movie, which you would hate.
All I'm saying is there's not enough happening in Dune Part 1 to be 3 hours. As of right now, and I haven't seen it since release day in 2018.
Yeah. We'll also talk about the more, but it's like obviously based on a book, and so like it moves kind of
it is slow.
In that way, so it's like some of the context or like details are lost in the visual representation of that. But yeah, I'm excited to watch this one as well. I've only seen it again, like you guys, the first time, and never again. So I'm also reading Dune right now. I'm just about at the point where the scene, like it's moving from the first movie to the second. So excited to have that context and watch it again, and we'll see if my experience is more enjoyable. I enjoyed it the first time, but I'm sure it'll be better this time.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Litterbox. You might have been noticing that I'm wearing a hat that is official Letterboxd merch that only exists in this single piece. So
it's a one of one.
If you're interested in merch, let us know. We can create some merch. Merch. Check us out on socials. We're going to be starting a TikTok soon, which is long overdue. So keep an eye out for that. And follow us if you're not already. Check us out on YouTube and continue listening to your favorite shitty movie review podcast. Adios.
Bye, everyone. Don't
Bye.
drink and drive.